So last week I went over the best of the best from DC Rebirth, but now let's see what some of the biggest disappointments were, at least in my eyes. What's up everybody, I'm Stan and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This weekly one-shot is going to be about some of the books that I might not necessarily really be enjoying at this point in time in DC Rebirth. Overall, the event has been a huge success for DC as far as a publishing house is concerned, but some of these stories just don't have enough to sustain them in my eyes. To start off with, we're going to talk about one of the books that had a huge motion picture coming out this year, and that is Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad had everything going for it. Rob Williams is doing a great job with the writing of other titles, and then you've got the return of Jim Lee. So Jim Lee, a man that was born in the 90s, that has great character designs, that is just made for a book like this, is going to be penciling and inking, and oh my god, it's going to be amazing, right? Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. What we get is we get a story that has to be shortened up into several smaller sections. And, you know, at the best, we're talking about 15, 16 pages worth of actual action and story, which makes it a little bit tougher to develop a kind of ensemble cast like this. What that results in is very thin character development, relatively weak storylines, and overall, it's a visual spectacle. It's amazing how these things look. The action sequences, the set pieces that go along with it are great. However, they just don't have enough backbone. They don't have enough foundation to really keep them chugging along. And that's the biggest disappointment for me. You know, I completely understand that, you know, the man might be a little bit deadline challenged and we want to make sure that the book comes out on time, and we're kind of combining these creators to make sure that those things happen, but it's just not quite enough for me to keep reading it. I'm expecting a little bit more. I'm expecting a little bit more fleshed out version, a little bit better story, a little bit bigger set pieces. Suicide Squad is one of those books where they could have built a brand, and they're trying to build a brand around that entire entity. You know, the movie itself, while it might have had its flaws, was definitely a success within the box office, and this is an entry-level point for people to get from that movie into this comic book. I'm not looking for a lot of fan service, I'm not looking for something that's easy to access, but I am looking for something that tells a competent story in a manner that is enjoyable. And while the action's good, I just don't really get that sense of joy and investment that I really want out of a book like this. On that same kind of level, I have to start talking about Justice League. And that really saddens me to say that, because Justice League, you know, it's not a book that I was really ever a huge fan of picking up, but with how well everything was written for Superman, for Batman, for Wonder Woman, I was just like, you know what, this Justice League book is going to kick ass. It's going to be amazing. And what did I open up in the first issue? I opened up some relatively mutated alien kind of invasion stuff that had no real backstory, no real support, no real development, no really fleshed out characteristics. The art was a little bit off kilter at some point in time, and ultimately the next 4 issues, you know, 1 through 5, all the way to where we're at now, it was disappointing. I don't want to be critical. I don't want to be overly critical of the creators that are part of this book. Brian Hitch, he's a great artist. But as far as his writing is concerned, I'm not necessarily sure how he was envisioning these things going. These giant entities that are stealing energy and are masses of people are now trying to sing a song to protect or to possibly end the universe, as we've got these alien bug invaders and then these cyborgs and then all these kind of other things that are happening, and Aquaman isn't anywhere to be seen because he's got these magic singing crystals, and everything has to happen at once in order to finish everything off in about 3 pages. The dialogue is relatively wooden. There's a lot of different things that people are saying out of character. There's just not a lot to keep you invested in the book, and that's one of the most frustrating things about it, because Justice League is a AAA title. It has all the heavy hitters. You know, it's got the best of what DC has to offer, and this needs to be a book that is knocking it out of the park every single issue. And these first 5, to start this entire series off in such a way where not only was I not active in the story, I wasn't invested in the story, I was actively pulling myself back because I was distracted by either artistic choices, poor dialogue. The focal points were just in the wrong space. You know, these giant, powerful energy entity beings said the same thing over 4 issues. They're like, oh, our song is almost ready. Their song, it was like Goku conjuring a spirit bomb. It took 9 issues to do one thing, and it was just frustrating as all get out. When I say disappointing books, it's because I had expectations for them. It's not because they're bad, but because they didn't live up to what I thought they should be. And isn't that really the true measure of being disappointed? You know, you have expectations, you're going into something, you feel like it should be great. Everything is in the direction. It's pointing at it being what it needs to be, and it isn't. So I'm sure there are other books out there that are a little bit poorer. There's other books that I wasn't really able to get into in the first issue, or the first 3 issues, or the first 5 issues. There are characters that I didn't really have any kind of cares or concerns about. But the biggest thing about disappointing books from DC's Rebirth is that they were meant to be something great, and they weren't. So those are my thoughts on the biggest disappointments of DC Rebirth, but I want to know what you guys are thinking as well. Hit me up in the comments. We can start that conversation. And as always, if you like what you see, hit that like button down there. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.